Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Arbor Farm. Thanks for joining us today. If you find our content helpful, please click the subscribe button so that you can receive notifications for when the next episode comes out. In today's episode, I want to show you when and how to harvest yarrow. It's important to know when to harvest yarrow so that you don't end up with flop like this. This is known as yarrow flop. And no one wants to end up with yarrow flop, especially if they're harvesting for bouquets. I also want to show you how to harvest yarrow, because did you know that you potentially should receive 2 harvests, or you can obtain 2 harvests from yarrow, also known as 2 flushes. So today we're working with Parker's variety. It's this dark yellow. It's what's known as somewhat of a vintage variety. It's been around for quite a while, and it is great for bouquets and for medicinal uses. It lasts a long time in a vase, so it's really good to use as a filler or even as the main item in a bouquet. So knowing when to harvest yarrow is important because you want to be sure that it's ready. It's strong enough to withstand a vase life. And I want to take, for example, this yarrow. You can see that it's not quite open yet. And you might be familiar with the yarrow wiggle test. When the yarrow is still attached to the plant, you can give it a little wiggle and see if it's ready to be harvested. If it wiggles, the head wiggles a lot from side to side, then it's not ready to be harvested yet. And if I were to have given this piece of yarrow a wiggle test, it would not have passed. So I should not have cut it. The other thing that I can note from it is that the buds are not all the way open. That indicates to me that it's not yet ready to be harvested. So if I were to compare my stem of yarrow that did not pass the wiggle test to, say, for example, one like this that is completely open, it is ready to be harvested. I give it a wiggle test and you can see that the head does not flap back and forth from side to side. It is nice and strong. So this yarrow is ready to be harvested. Knowing when to harvest, this one not, and this one that is very valuable and important. When you're harvesting yarrow for yourself, a friend, or even if you're a flower farmer, you want to be sure to give it that good wiggle test. Make sure all the buds are open, otherwise you're going to be pretty disappointed or pretty embarrassed when an hour or 2 later your bouquet of yarrow totally flops. Make sure that it's nice and sturdy and fully open, and it will maintain a nice long vase life with fresh water. Alright, so now that we've established when to harvest yarrow, and we know that it needs to be nice and sturdy and the buds should be fully open, it's good to know how do we harvest yarrow. How do we harvest it? Well, if you want to get 2 flushes or 2 harvests, you'll want to do it midsummer or early summer as soon as it's fully open. Right now is the middle of July, so it's a good time to harvest yarrow. So let's go ahead, and this patch here on the edge of our property, we're going to harvest the yarrow, and I'll show you how to do that. Let's take a look at our patch of yarrow now. And our goal for harvesting the yarrow is to get another flush, it's called, or be able to generate another harvest. And it would be easy to come along and, just say that this approximately here is long enough for a vase. It's about 18 inches long, and I could go ahead and cut it here. But in order to get that second flush, we want to do something different. We want to cut it only 3 or 4 inches above the ground. So we don't want to cut it up here, although we could, and then we'd need to come back and cut the rest off so that it's only 3 or 4 inches above the ground. But let's go right down here to the base of the plant, and just cut it where it needs to be. And this is the yarrow stem here. So I know that it needs to be just 3 or 4 inches above the ground, and I can go ahead and make my cut. And if I'm not drying the yarrow, I'm going to want to place that directly in a cool water bucket. So let's go ahead and cut off some more. And we'll get these that we've harvested put right into our bucket of cold water. I'm trimming them up a little here so that they can be nice, just the right size for a vase. And if you're harvesting them for a vase, you might want to strip the leaves, of course, so that they will not turn the water murky prematurely. But let's get a couple more here. This one looks like a good one, so I'm gonna cut it just above the ground. And I'm gonna make it a nice length for the vase and get those stuck into my water. All right, here's the yarrow that we've cut off, and we are ready for it to send up its next flush, and it should have plenty of time to do that. We still have August and September with potential warm weather here in our zone, and we'll look forward to seeing it continue to grow and continue to produce. One other thing about yarrow, especially if you're keeping it in a vase, is it does not need to be refrigerated. If you're a flower farmer, you do not need to refrigerate yarrow that has been harvested. It keeps very well at room temperature, just in a bucket of water. We trust that you found this content helpful for how to avoid the sad yarrow flop, but to harvest your yarrow when it's ready, fully ready, nice and strong, fully in bloom, and how to get that second flush. Thanks for joining us.